We're on the phone today with John Bermuda Schwartz. He's the drummer for the Weird Al Yankovic Band, and he also has a new book out. It's called Lights, Camera, Accordion, eye-popping photographs of Weird Al Yankovic, 1981 to 2006. Hey, John, how you doing today?
I'm good, Justin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years, but you're back with another book of your photography, Lights, Camera, Accordion, eye-popping photographs of Weird Al Yankovic, 1981 to 2006. I guess the title kind of explains it, but can you talk a bit about the new book?
Well, it's more of my color film photos of Al. It's a much wider period than the first book, which was pretty narrow. There's 50% more photos. There are photos from the road, which I did not have in the black and white book. And it's pretty good. Al and the band, of course, they're in there. They all saw the book and they love it. They say it's better than the first. And I'm really proud of it. I'm really glad I had a chance to get those photos out there again. And a lot of the photos in there have been seen before, but they've been taken from prints or they were seen on the web, and or haven't been seen in a long time. Of course, these are all taken from the negative, so they look just fabulous.
Yeah, it's definitely a beautiful book. It's great that you were able to get it all in one place, for the fans. And obviously you were shooting black and white and color at the same time. Can you talk a bit about that? And I mean, are you doing things differently depending on, what kind of film you're using?
Well, I did that. I shot black and white specifically to kind of document a couple of, what I thought were significant events, like our first video, our second video, our third video, et cetera, et cetera. And but I carried two cameras. So I could shoot color and black and white. And so there are similar photos in both formats, and I did my best to not include any that were too similar. I didn't want anyone to think that I had taken a color photo, made it black and white, and put that out in the first book. Those were really black and white. These are all obviously really color. But I carried two cameras, and I did that for a long time, just in general, then eventually stopped, and then eventually, honestly, I've been using my phone a lot, as most of us do now.
Yeah, I can't imagine the amount of work, obviously over the years taking the photos, but then years later you're compiling them, and you got to digitize them and, choose the photos. That must have been quite the process.
That was a heck of a thing. The first book, I had a company that specializes in that, do about 20 rolls of film that I had selected. And they did a great job on those. And I realized about a year later, I said, I got all these other negatives. I really should get them in a digital format. They'll be a lot easier to deal with just in general. I don't have to scan photos anymore. So I got myself a proper negative scanner. And in 2021, while I was sitting around doing nothing, over about 18 weeks, every day, every single day, I scanned film, 2, 3, 4, 5 rolls sometimes. Not only just scanned them, had to name them, had to catalog them in a database, describe what was on them. It was a pretty arduous process. I was really, really glad and satisfied when it was done. It was a heck of a project. I don't think I could have taken any other time in my life and have done that. But thanks to everyone laying low because of COVID, I was sitting home anyway. So. If nothing else, it was therapy. But I also, in scanning all of those, and they spanned my entire film shooting era from when I was about maybe 15 or 16, I got to relive a lot of my life, a lot of the things in my life, people, places, cars, drum sets, pets, bands I was in, and of course, Weird Al was a significant portion of that too.
That's awesome. I imagine when you first played with Weird Al and you were documenting the videos and things, you probably didn't imagine you'd still be together 40 years later. At what point did you realize that you had taken on a project that was going to end up, taking up a good chunk of your life?
It's hard to say. I mean, we never know for sure how much longer we've got. I mean, it has certainly gone a lot longer than any of us thought. Thankfully, I mean, it's been great. And I don't see any end in sight. I don't know at what point I realized that it would go on for longer. I mean, there's always that hope. I couldn't have imagined when I was 24 when I met Al that I would still be doing this, 42 years later. I'm sure he didn't think so either.
Well, I know, John, besides the photos, you have a lot of memorabilia and stuff throughout your career. Could we see maybe a third book down the road, maybe like a scrapbook or something to that effect?
Well, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And, I think a lot of my stuff, and some of it, again, has been seen, but not in very good quality, usually not with any kind of description. And I think this book would require a lot more text. But it would be, I've got every merch item that was ever made, starting back in 1984. I've got a ton of product from around the world, promo items, things with different covers, videos, albums, CDs, 45s, different formats of tapes, laser discs, a ton of stuff, memorabilia from some of the videos. I've got, of course, a complete collection of all of the after-show passes and laminates and things that we use on the road, our credentials, that most people don't get to see. A ton of stuff, magazine clippings, magazines, all sorts of interesting things, things that I think the fans would like. And yes, that is definitely on the table.
Awesome. Yeah, looking forward to that. Hopefully that comes up soon. And again, we're on the phone with John Bermuda Schwartz, and we're talking about his new book, Lights, Camera, Accordion, Eye-Popping Photographs of Weird Al Yankovic. I want to talk a bit about your music. I know you guys are still playing here on tour, but how has the tour been going here so far, the last tour?
Well, the last tour, we just wrapped that up. That was 27 weeks with no breaks. That's the longest we've ever gone out. That's a lot longer than most bands should, I think. And it went very well. It was very successful, mostly sold-out shows. And we played some cool places. Every tour, it's interesting, without a new album for, several years now, and we're basically playing catalog material, that the popularity is growing still and has not slowed down and shows no signs of slowing down. And every tour we play a couple of cool new places. And this last tour, we played at the Kennedy Center, and we also, in fact, we wrapped up the tour at Carnegie Hall in New York City, which was, is a particularly cool place. It's cool for me because the Beatles played there. Anywhere we play where the Beatles played is really cool. But obviously, way beyond, just the Beatles. There's just a ton of performers and have been there, and it's just such a classic venue. That was very, very cool to play there.
And of course, you guys played here as well in Mankato, Minnesota here a few months back. And, it's awesome you guys have fans that are passionate enough to sell out tours like this. When you say right up front, hey, we're not playing any of the big hits, and still they're sold out. That's awesome. Well,
we did this kind of a stripped down tour, no costumes, no videos, and all originals. We did this in 2018 as well, and it was very successful. And we basically came back in 2022 and did it again. And it's possible we would do something like that again in the future and change up some of the songs. But, the production, the big show, is pretty cool as well. And that's actually, I think, got more mainstream appeal. Well, certainly it does. And we generally play bigger venues when we do that production. And at some point we'll return to that, I think. And I say that because we haven't sold the costumes or the props or anything yet. So I think I was just in the warehouse this morning. It's all still there. I think we'll return to that at some point.
Well, of course, the people, the casual fans know the big hits, but the diehards obviously know that you guys have a lot of songs to choose from and a lot of great original songs. I wanted to ask you that as far as how you decide, what to put into the set lists when you do these kind of bare-bone tours. And was there maybe some songs that you wanted to try out that maybe didn't make it around this time?
Well, we know right up front that there are certain songs we just cannot do. Genius in France we can't do. And not do it justice anyway. Hardware Store is another one we just physically can't do live. We would have to change them in order to pull them off. And that may or may not be cool. We've changed Dare to be Stupid, which we could certainly do in its original form. We've done 2 additional versions of that. One, in 2018, we did sort of almost like a bluesy, almost a Grateful Dead sounding version of it, to where when the song started, you didn't know that was it. And then the lyrics come in, and it's like, oh, that's Dare to be Stupid in a different style. And then in this last tour, we did it as a Latin thing, which again, it starts off with a really pretty, guitar picking thing, kind of an easy Latin thing, and then goes into and you don't know it's coming until the lyrics start. And then it goes into a much harder, much more traditional Latin thing. And again, it was a whole different deal. But to do some of these other songs, we would just have to start out doing them different, and not sure it would really do them well, serve them well, and be enjoyed. And it's a lot of work to change a song around that way. But there are certainly enough originals to choose from and change it up. We had probably 45 or 48 originals on the 2018 tour that we rotated differently between the show. Every set was different, by the way. Every night was a different show. And on this last tour, we cut it back a little bit, but we still had like 37, 38 songs that we rotated, and we would only do 18 or 19 of them a night. So we would have, there's a lot of variety for us and for the fans, because a lot of the fans will come see multiple shows, and they'll come to another show knowing that they're only going to see maybe 3 or 4 or 5 songs that'll be different, but they enjoy it. Even if it's the same, when we're doing our big production and it's the same show every night, they come to multiple shows because they enjoy it, in the same way that you would go see a movie several times. You don't expect it to be different each time. You enjoy it, and you enjoy seeing and hearing it again. So our fans, most of them are like that, and they will come to repeat performances, whether they're the same or they're almost similar, or maybe with the hope that they'll be significantly different with all of these different originals we're rotating. But it's I don't think there was anything that we wanted to do that we didn't end up doing. I think Al had it up front. He knew exactly what we could actually pull off and what would be enjoyable by the fans, and he has a real good sense of that, and I think it worked very well.
Definitely. And you mentioned being on the road as long as you were this last time around, and I read you guys are going back on tour again, this time over in Europe. That's incredible how much you guys seem to be on the road. Well,
these 2 years, yeah, it's quite a bit. Now, we 2020 was a year off for us anyway, and then we were planning at the time to go back out in 2021, and the booking agency, after a while, said, it's probably this whole COVID thing is probably going to dissuade a lot of people from wanting to come sit in an audience with a bunch of other people. Maybe not a good time to go back out that quickly. And they kind of squeezed. 2021 was supposed to be a longer year, but with some breaks in it for our touring, and they squeezed it all into one package, into one 27-week trip. And we didn't know up front. We thought, we've been out for 4 months before, almost 5. That's not that big of a deal, but it's hard. You get out there and it's hard, and you would never know that, if we were tired or whatever, by seeing the shows, because every show was a really good show and full of energy. But wow, after the show and riding on the bus or the next day, we just sat around and relaxed. We did our best to catch up on our rest, because it just that much travel, that much being dragged around, does get to you after a while. And that's at 5 shows a week, so we're in 4 or 5, sometimes 6 cities a week, and that many hotels, and it's a lot of logistics. So it was a tiring tour, but it was a very successful tour. It was a very enjoyable tour. The audiences loved every show, and we loved every show. We're not going to do 6 months straight again like that. We'll break it up a little bit next time.
Well, the tour just wrapping up, and of course the next one coming up in Europe, and you've got the book, and that would seem like way more than enough, but you also, of course, got the new movie that's out, Weird, the Al Yankovic story, and I know so many people were excited for that one, and then it seems like it's been a great success. That's got to be awesome for you guys to see that work out well, too.
Well, well, yeah, we are involved in that. We played all the stuff that's in there, all the band songs that are in there. We re-recorded earlier, before the movie was even shot, and so, we're certainly a part of it, and of course Al co-wrote it and was one of the producers on it as well. And it's really a good movie. It's really, really done well. It's very well acted. I think the fans know going in that it's not a documentary by any stretch of the imagination. It's the farthest thing from the truth that you could possibly have about Al, and which is interesting then, because if someone sees it who's not a fan or not a little more familiar with Al, they really don't know that Al and Madonna didn't have a relationship. They really don't know a lot of the stuff that went on in the movie that was shown as being so convincing, yet it's all kind of for fun. It's all just satire, really. And the movie's gotten really, really good reviews. And yes, we're very proud of it. We got to see it in a theater at the Philadelphia Film Festival. We got to see it on the big screen. and hear an audience reaction while we were watching it, which was very cool. They loved the whole thing, and I've seen it a few additional times, and it's done very well. It's really, really good. And the band is in touch with the guys that played us in the movie, and they each actually play the instrument that they're supposed to be playing. Steve's actor plays bass, and Jim's actor plays guitar, and my actor, Tommy O'Brien, plays the drums. I've been in touch with them, all good guys. The other guys, from what I understand, Tommy's a nice guy. And it's very, very cool. I mean, that's not the only Al thing. I mean, this is a major year of Al, besides the tour and besides the movie, and besides my book. He's got a book coming out that he's involved with called The Illustrated Al, which I think comes out in early December. Okay. And that's like sort of graphic novel illustrations of a bunch of songs, a bunch of his songs and several parodies. And some of them are just kind of a one-page illustration, and others are kind of like a comic strip, almost like sort of a storyboard kind of a deal. That's coming out. He's got another movie, and I can't think of the name of it, but there was a movie that he did some of the voicing in, and is also portrayed as one of the characters. And I cannot think of it, and that's out now. This has just turned out to be an extremely busy year for Al. There's something else he's done that's coming out for a TV thing on Netflix or something. He recorded a song. Very busy year for Al. For a guy that hasn't had an album out in 8 years. He's bigger than ever right now.
Yeah, that is awesome. That after he first came out and you guys were out on the road, playing the smaller shows, and I'm sure a lot of people probably thought it was just going to be a short time thing. And obviously, as you mentioned, more popular now than ever. You guys with Al, and I know your book is just out, John. But do you have anything else coming up as far as music, maybe outside of the Weird Al camp?
Not right now. All my local bands are kind of laying low. I've actually got a gig coming up shortly with a band that I sub with. But all of my bands are just kind of laying low, and I'll be back out with Al before I get a chance to play with them again. But when I'm back, we'll be out for almost 2 months. And when I'm back, they know I'm available, and probably for the next year after that. And I'll have a chance to catch up with them a little bit, I hope. But that's kind of what I do. I'm always playing. I enjoy playing. And, I juggle these other bands, and some of them have been fairly long-term commitments, a dozen, 15. One guy I've been with over 40 years, who I hooked up with just after Al. Some pretty long-term stuff, and I enjoy working with all of them.
That's awesome. And again, the new book is beautiful, and I'm glad that everything's going so well for you, John. And again, it's always an honor speaking with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and pleasure talking with you again. Take care.
And again, that was John Bermuda Schwartz from the Weird Al Yankovic Band, and his new book, Lights, Camera, Accordion, Eye-Popping Photographs of Weird Al Yankovic 1981 to 2006, is available now.